It's really filtered by your own subscription that you can attack, simulate an attack, and verify that all the triggers, all the technology works, also all the policy, all the processes, and all the monitoring things that you put at work are effective. So that's a very important aspect when you want to protect against DDoS. Simulation and operational readiness is also something that you want to put at work. So that's why we're providing you with Breakpoint Cloud option to really test your deployment. The standard billing, as we mentioned, there's a standard fee, plus then there's additional data processing and overage that are applicable. Very important to note, as long as you enable DDoS protection, the first 100 public IP addresses that you have in your environment are protected. We hope this is sufficient, 100 public IP addresses, but if you need more, there's additional costing that will come on top of that. And basically, how we get started with that. Let's just see in a quick demo how you enable that on your subscription, how you see the important counters and monitors that you have in Azure Monitor, and how you can leverage breaking points to see and simulate an attack. So in order to test Azure DDoS protection standard, I just created a quick VM here with a public IP address, which is just a WordPress that I have put available on this environment. Inside Azure DDoS protection, everything comes by the public IP address, where we see we have all the metrics related to DDoS protection. So I'm going to set first the diagnostic settings that are here for this environment, with first the storage account, which I'm going to use for the long-term retention of my information. Then I have Event Hub, where I'm going to stream live my operational logs, and I also have log analytics for the short-term consumption of my operational logs. Here, those long-term retention is where I'm going to put that inside the storage account. So if I go to monitor, same thing, I'm going to see the metrics for the public IP address, and this is where I'm going to find the things that are related to the DDoS state. So I'm selecting here the public IP address, and I'm going to have a set of counters that I can use and I can trigger. So here, the most important one is probably this one, the under DDoS or not. So I'm going to pin it to my dashboard, and I'm going to add a few more counters which are related to my public IP address. So the DDoS metrics, the inbound bytes, the inbound TCP, the trigger for the TCP session, which is basically the automatically tuned trigger that at some moment in time is for the specific IP, the value which is going to be the trigger for that specific application. So that's the one that we auto-tune. So we have all these details here that I can customize, and I'm going to see later which one I keep and which one are not relevant for my immediate monitoring and operations of my environment. So here we go. I've created this dashboard, and I can just do the same thing and pin it to the current dashboard. So right now it's a little bit messy. It has been added at the end of my current dashboard. I can do some reorganization of that later. So let's enable DDoS service in my environment with the DDoS protection plan. I do create, I just specify a name for this guy, and I'm going to specify the resource group where I want to create it. So I want to create it in Demo DDoS inside Southeast Asia application. And let's go back to this configuration. It's rather fast to apply, but the next step I need to do is then to enable the DDoS protection on a specific VNet. So remember, this is enabled at the VNet level, so we have here our protection, which is right now empty. So go back to the resource group, create the DDoS protection from Demo DDoS VNet. So here we have this tab, DDoS protection, specify standard, and specify that we want the plan that we just created here. So now automatically all the public IP addresses which are related to a machine which is connected to this VNet, they're going to be protected automatically, and included, as we mentioned, in the plan is 100 public IP address. So once we have that configured, we can now have the protection which is effective for this IP address. So if we go to Breaking Point on the cloud, as we mentioned, that's the service that we offer in order to test the environment against DDoS. So here what we can do is input the IP address of this environment.